Hi there on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We talk about, well, a lot of important things, current events, things that we all experience, things that we're dealing with in life. I'm Jerry Usher along with Debbie Georgiani. Debbie, good to be with you again today. How are things going?
It's going great. I'm having a blessed day, and I'm going to be so excited to talk about this subject with you, Jerry, and our listeners. And I'm just going to encourage you now. The phone lines fill up very, very quickly on this show, which is a good thing. So start dialing in now. You want to jump in on this conversation. Know you're going to have an interesting take on it. It's 1-800-585-9396. That's 1-800-585-9396. And if you're outside North America, it's country code 1-205-271-285.
Today we're going to talk about the class system in everyday life, and this is nothing new. It's even biblical. The Bible talks about, it talks about servants and people who are in different classes of, say, employment or their living conditions or what have you. Even in the last several days of mass readings, we've been hearing the stories of Abraham and Sarah and Sarah's maidservant Hagar and how she was treated and sent out finally with Ishmael. So this whole idea of having kind of classes, upper class, middle class, lower classes, is not anything new, but how do we handle it? How do we deal with it? In fact, if you believe yourself to be in one of those classes, and God puts us there in many instances, but it's always a matter of what we do with the gifts that God gives us and how we treat others, and that's something that we want to really emphasize today.
I spent 15 years, Jerry, in the hospitality industry, service industry, hotel, restaurant management. That was my first job when I was like 16 years old. And I could share so many personal stories of being on the receiving end of people's just really lack of respect and lack of gratitude. But then on the flip side, the very generous people, the very kind, the very loving and caring people. So many people, I can't even begin to tell you how many people offered me other jobs so I could, further my career in the restaurant and hotel industry. So, I mean, you see both sides of it, and I've really come to appreciate in the service world that it is really sometimes a thankless job. And I think it's our job when we are experiencing or encountering people who are helping us enjoy luxuries, who are serving us and helping us, have the luxuries of life.
A better quality of life.
A better quality of life that we truly need to be conscious of and really be Christ to others. So I just wanted to share that about my personal background. How about you, Jerry? Did you start out in the service industry?
Well, I started out my first job. I was 12 years old. Lived in a town of about 500 and worked at the local grocery store. It was the only one in town. And yeah, I did everything from pumping gas to sweeping gravel in the parking lot to bagging groceries to restocking the milk. I don't know that you'd call that a low-class job. I was just happy to have it when I was 12 years old and getting older than that. But I started out working for $1.75 an hour. So
wow.
I don't know if that was good or bad at the time.
How did you get to work at 12? I thought, isn't there like child laws on that?
Well, yeah, I don't know. Looking back, I don't know. I mean, like I said, it was a town and just I don't think there were going to be any problems with that. But
gotcha.
What about you, our listeners? Join us with your takes. Phone lines are open, but as Debbie said, they don't remain open very long on this or really any other EWTN program. So 1-800-585-9396. 1-800-585-9396. What is your own personal experience? Maybe like Debbie, you have been in a certain one of the classes and maybe through God's gifts and your hard work, you've managed to move up, say, from lower class to middle class, or maybe you find yourself in what would typically be described as the upper class. Does that make you uncomfortable when you're around some of the people like Debbie was talking about right now, or how do we treat them? Debbie, I know that you do this, and And pardon me, folks, I've got a little bit of I've got the frog Debbie had a week or two ago.
You caught the
Um,
frog.
I always and say things about myself, but I always go out of my way try to make the hotel housekeeper, the shuttle bus driver feel appreciated. Tip them and tip them maybe better than others might. Debbie, it's a matter of looking into his eyes and gazing into his or her soul, and we have to realize that Christ is there regardless of the quote unquote class that a person is in.
I couldn't agree more, Jerry. And I'm very similar to your the way you behave when you travel, and I've seen you be so kind to people, serving us and taking care of us when we're traveling, and you're very, very generous, and I love being around you because of that. I do the similar same thing, but when I talk to like the housekeeping staff, I always make a point, and it's not because I'm trying to brag about myself or anything, just because I came from the hotel restaurant industry and I know how hard they work. I know how many times they don't get a thank you, and they are doing some really, not, the most, the jobs they're doing are, sometimes very, you're encountering germs, you're encountering dirt, you're encountering, all the stuff we leave behind. I don't know how to really say that, but they're not, it's a thankless job. And so I always go up and I always say, thank you so very, very much for making my stay so beautiful. The room is beautiful. You did a great job, and I just want to thank you. And you should see the way their eyes light up. I mean, it's like they said, "What did you say?" And then they do a double take. But I just think that little, thank you goes a long way.
1-800-585-9396. It's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and you. You are the one who makes the program. You drive the show with your takes. And today we're talking about the class system in everyday life. And we want to know if you have experienced this. Maybe you've been looked down upon because of the neighborhood that you live in or the job that you hold, or your ethnicity perhaps, or something. These are all things we've got to really be conscious of. And again, try to treat all people with equal dignity and equal respect. So please do join us at 1-800-585-9396. And Debbie, I will say that one of my really, really tough pet peeves that I have to try to work around is I'll be in an airport, for example. And there will be people, drinking their expensive coffees, that they waited in line with, 50 other people to buy. And they finish that up. And what do? They just set the cup on the floor and get up and walk away. And then my first thought is, oh, don't worry. Some underpaid lackey will come by and pick that up for you. I mean, it's just we could be so much more respectful of people if we would just simply do the right thing.
I couldn't agree more. You know what I see, which is so common in airports, Jerry? In the women's restrooms, I have actually seen travelers pushing the attendants that are cleaning the restrooms, pushing them aside so that they can get to the stalls, to get to the sink, and the so bad for the attendants. I mean, it just gets to me so badly. I mean, the way people will treat other people when they feel like, it's my time, I've got my blinders on and I'm going for it and no one's going to mess with me and I could care less what anybody else is doing. So, but what rings true to me, Jerry, real quickly before we go to a break, Matthew 7:12. Everybody please mark this down. It says, so in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you. For this sums up the law and the prophets. So in everything, do unto others what you would have them do to you. That's the golden rule. And if we can live by that and be conscious of that, boy, would the world be a better place.
All right, as we get set to go, and your calls, your takes, should there even be a class system in our country or other countries around the world? If not, what should we do to eliminate it? Jesus did say the poor you will always have with you, so that might be an indication that always will be, say, lower, middle, and upper classes. But human dignity, human self-worth. Have you found yourself on the receiving end of discrimination in any way because of certain circumstances in your life? Or have you kind of had a metanoia, a change of mind and heart yourself toward persons who are maybe in a class lower than yourself? Let us hear from you with your takes at 1-800-585-9396. Here, we're going to go to the break right now. Jerry Usher with Debbie Georgianni. It's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN. We'll start your phone calls with Anthony when we come back, and we look forward to hearing from you as well. 1-800-585-9396.
The Holy Father's prayer intention for the month of July is that political responsibility may be lived at all levels as a high form of charity. The mission intention is that amid social inequalities, Latin American Christians may bear witness to love for the poor and contribute to a more fraternal society.
Hear what others are saying about listening to EWTN radio.
Yeah, I listen to you every day while I'm in my work truck here. I've got my Sirius satellite radio constantly tuned to EWTN, and I have learned so much just, listening to all these talk shows and, listen to, because I don't get a chance to, go to Mass during the week, so listen at 9 o'clock for our Mass to come on.
Listen daily to the EWTN Catholic Radio Network.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN. I am Jerry Usher along with Debbie Georgianni. Debbie, yesterday you were throwing out the line for some more folks to like Take Two with Jerry and Debbie book, and a lot of people responded.
I did. I actually asked for everyone to participate in the challenge, to go to their Facebook, EWTN Radio Network, and like EWTN. And I think it was over 100 likes yesterday. So if we can keep up this pace now, even if you can start inviting some of your friends, if we can keep up this pace for the whole month of July, we'll have close to 4,000 likes. That's going to be just tremendous for EWTN. You could help us out, like your Facebook, EWTN Radio. That would be awesome. We love to watch it all day long as you're liking it. So thank you for that. Jerry, can I say real quickly, at the break, I was having trouble at the beginning of the show of actually finding the words to express what I was trying to communicate, because all these thoughts started coming back of all the times I was mistreated in the restaurant business, and it started just to flood in. So I'm going to give it to you, but I want to just share one pet peeve that I had in 10 years that I was waiting tables, and oh boy, did it drive me crazy. Go ahead.
Oh, I thought you were going to share it.
Do you want me to? I felt like I felt like I was hogging the mic. Okay.
We'll tease people with that. Can you hold on to that? We'll
Okay.
get to some of the callers on the line here. Folks, you could also share your takes at Take Two Show. That's via Twitter. Or send us an email. We got a lot of your comments and questions via email. Take Two, that's the number 2. Take Two at EWTN.com. First, we're going to start with Anthony, who's calling from New York. Anthony, welcome. Thank you for your call to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Go ahead, Anthony. You're on the air.
Yeah, hi, Jerry. How are you? Hi, Debbie.
Hi,
Doing
Anthony.
great, thanks.
I just want to relate a quick story when I was younger, and it actually was my first job as a financial analyst for a major company that was actually listed on the New York Exchange. And this particular company, I'm not going to name the company, but they had a pretty significant percentage of a very important industry, in fact, a vital industry in this country. And once a month, I would have to a report that essentially gave the inventory position for the whole company, it was projected and what was the difference between what was projected and the actual. But cutting to the chase, you would have to go up to the president's office, and his office was virtually a suite within the office. You would knock on the door, and I know it sounds silly, but believe it or not, the door opened and a butler greeted you.
Oh my God!
and mind you, this company, we're talking about the 1960s, but somehow this company was anchored in a mindset of the late 1800s. And you would present the report, and they would put it on a damn platform tray, and walk it into the president's office. And you every once in a while you'd be admitted, and you would be kind of like shaking. It was like the Wizard of Oz behind the screen. The bottom line is that that particular company eventually went belly up. And they really weren't high class. They turned out to be pretty low class, and their stock really went down. And the point of the story here is that high class is really, a perception that you may have in your own mind, but reality and the public and what they really perceive is something different. And eventually, real class will emerge.
Anthony, you're striking a nerve with me here because I do travel a lot. I watch very little news or anything when I'm at home. I'll grab a newspaper in an airport just to kill some time on an airplane, and quarterly reports come out from corporations, and this is just one example that really grates on me. But then you'll hear, I don't know, whatever time it is during the year that they report on CEO salaries and all of this stuff, and the money that these making, corporate CEOs. I'm not saying they don't do a lot for the company. Sometimes they turn a company completely around. My question is, though, Debbie, and I'd love your thoughts on this, is, and maybe similar professional athletes in some cases. I mean, is somebody worth that money? And then when they get that kind of money, how often do we see that then they turn around and feel privileged and have, certain around them and treat people in a certain way? So, Anthony, Debbie, I think Anthony is touching on something that really concerns me.
You know what's interesting, and Anthony's call is so profound, because when you look at these top executives, excuse me, I think I'm catching that frog again. When you look at that top, it's going back and forth like hot potato. Okay, so when these top executives and people that have really just, surged to the top very fast, so many of them, when you ask them their story, they've come from very humble beginnings. And, I admire the ones who always remember that. And there are plenty. Believe me, I've met so many that always go back to their roots and their humble beginnings. But then there's some that seem to have lost their way. And when enter and further separated from reality, and they start to really elevate themselves. And that's, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, it sounds like with this company that Anthony, you're went belly up. It sounds like that's what happened. They lost their way and their purpose. And it's like that old saying, what goes around comes around. And so, they obviously suffered the downside of it. Anthony, can you comment on that?
Yes, it was really remarkable because if sales were lower, they would they would have an executive go through, the financial offices with a big frown on their face. It was just so much that they were really kind of out of sync with reality and the way to really run a company. And it was truly amazing at that point in time that this mindset, again, I think was anchored in the late 1800s, was still prevalent. And at that point in time, it was was a a national brand. It was a very, very important, and they had about 4% of the industry, which was significant. Was very significant.
Wow.
I just, it's just amazing that a company would hold on to, the relics of what, what was considered class and
Right.
carry that forward.
Right, right. Well, Anthony, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time, because you really opened our eyes with, I mean, both Jerry and I were both commenting when you were speaking. This really makes us aware of where people's, come froms are, and where they're going, and what their vision is, and how we really do need to. I mean, I bet you, Anthony, you felt almost helpless, like you were watching this happen, and then it was all around you. So this is really, really amazing material for us to take to heart and start to change our and become aware. And just real quickly, Anthony, don't forget to call in when we do the St. Anthony show. We're going to be doing a show on St. Anthony, so we want you to call back in. So, Jerry, I know you wanted to comment.
Well, thanks, Anthony, for your call. Yeah, we are going to do a show on how St. Anthony helps us find things, but how it's not magic. It's just that God gives us his help through our older brothers and sisters, the saints. So, Anthony, thank you for that call. 1-800-585-9396. The class system in everyday life, that is what we're talking about on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. 1-800-585-9396. Just one last comment on that, and Debbie, you triggered this thought in my mind. When I was talking about the corporate CEOs who make the tens of millions and get all of these perks and the yacht and all of this stuff. Again, I'm not begrudging them that. I'm just I was kind of wondering, is an individual, is anybody in any corporation worth that? But you reminded me there are a lot of people who have made their wealth by working very hard, and what do? They give a lot of that away. I'm thinking of Tom Monahan, for example, who once owned the Detroit Tigers, then he owned Domino's Pizza, and he was a billionaire. And if I can quote him correctly, something to the effect of he wanted to die without any of that money, and he is giving it away, founding Ave Maria University and Ave Maria School of Law and all of these things. So having the wealth is not the issue in and of itself. Do we let that go to our heads, and then how do we treat others? What do we do with that? So I think that's important. We're going to go to Charles. Charles is driving through Indiana. Charles, welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. You are on the air.
Is that Chelsea? Chelsea.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chelsea. Yeah,
it's Chelsea. Okay,
no wonder.
hi,
No wonder our producer didn't go to Chelsea. I'm sitting here. I even have my glasses on, Chelsea. Sorry about that.
Hi, Chelsea.
Hello.
Wait. I just have to ask you. You're on a headset or Bluetooth, and you do have your seatbelt on.
Yes, ma'am, both.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I saw the law before I got here. Well, what I wanted to comment on was when I graduated with my teaching degree, it was December, which is a very difficult time to get a teaching job. So I had to have income to supplement daytime substituting. And the perfect solution to that for me was waitressing. But I found a lot of difficulty in that because, first of all, they don't really want to hire someone with a bachelor's degree to wait tables.
Right.
I kept being told I was overqualified. And then once I found a job waitressing, I found that a lot of the patrons looked down on me for my job that I had. I had one particular patron, which I found it deeply ironic that he came into the restaurant, very dirty work clothes, unshaven, not speaking a proper English, and he complained on me to management and said that I was a dumb blonde and an airhead.
Oh, okay, Chelsea, hold on one second. We have to go to a break. I want you to stay on because you are really hitting home with Jerry and I right now. So if you can hang on, we're going to go to a break. Stay with us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. You can jump in, call 1-800-585-9396. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
I don't have money to travel, but I can travel the world on EWTN, and I do. Each of you. I love traveling the world on EWTN.
If you have a comment about our programming, we'd love to hear from you too. Call 205-795-5773 or email to radio@EWTN.com. Very much for listening. God bless you.
Hi, this is Joan Lewis. In my work here at the Vatican, I'm blessed to speak with all kinds of people every day, from visitors to Rome, to Vatican officials, even to the Pope. And every weekend, the EWTN program Vatican Insider, I'll share their stories with you. We'll bring you the latest news from Rome. We'll talk with Vatican leaders and newsmakers, and we'll answer your questions. So don't miss Vatican Insider this weekend, right here on the EWTN Radio Network. For times in your EWTN.com and click on radio.
Whether you're at home, at work, in the car, you can follow what he teaches 24 hours each day. We're EWTN Radio.
And just to let you know, I'm a returning Catholic because of EWTN. Bless you guys and keep it up.
And you're invited to visit our website too. Just log on to www.ewtn.com. That's www.ewtn.com.
On Saturday morning, don't miss the Catholic Business Hour with your host, Lyles, focusing on careers and business with a Catholic perspective.
Hi, Dick Lyles here. I'll be talking with Andrew Marquardt and David O'Brien, the co-founders of AdvantageTech.net. We'll talk about the hiring process and how to make sure to hire the right person for the job and for your team.
The Catholic Business Hour, Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Take two with Jerry and Debbie on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. 1-800-585-9396. Tomorrow we're going to wrap up the week, and guess what? We're going to talk about Independence Day. It's another, I guess you could call it a pet peeve of mine, Debbie, that people, it's more and more referred to as the 4th of July. 4th of July. To me, it's almost secularizing, and I'm not comparing it to a religious holiday. But it's kind of similar to the way that Christmas and Easter and all these things just get, the real meaning of them get kind of gutted out and stripped away and almost secularized. Well, I think we need to maintain the name Independence Day because it really does speak to the birth of our country as a nation, and I think patriotism is tied up with that, and of course religious liberties, which is a huge issue that we're going to talk about tomorrow on the program. But anyway, Chelsea, you and Chelsea, we're going to chat about what she was just mentioning.
Well, Chelsea, thank you for staying with us. This is why I had such a difficult time talking in the earlier break, because I was thinking of all the personal stories similar to you, Chelsea. So I want to just recap very quickly. So you were called not nice names by a patron, correct?
Yes, ma'am. He called me a dumb blonde and an airhead.
And how did you feel? Respond.
My first reaction was actually a little haughty because I'm looking at him and the way he's dressed and the way he speaks, and I'm thinking, I have a degree. You know, in a couple months, I'm probably going to be your children's teacher, and this is how you talk to me. This is what you think of me just because I'm serving you.
Right. Right. Did you report that to the management? I'm just curious because I was a stickler about that.
He reported on me to management. He told them that he didn't be his server anymore because I was a dumb blonde and an airhead.
Oh my goodness. And did the management back you, or what did the management do? I'm just curious. Did they protect you?
Yeah, this was the second time. I was actually the second waiter he had that day. He told them that he didn't want the first one because he said the first guy was on drugs.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness.
So I was the second waiter he had already, and so management just said, we'll take care of you from here on out, and, you know, don't bother our waiters anymore since you're not satisfied with our wait staff.
Oh my goodness. Well, Chelsea, here's the great news. You're not alone. Those of us who have waited tables, we've all been on the receiving end of people like that, and that's the you're not alone. So even though you felt really horrible at the way this man was treating you, but just know that unfortunately in the restaurant happens so frequently. Jerry, you wanted me to kind of just share, but then we said we'd hold off, which was really bothering my pet peeve. I can't tell you how many times in the restaurant industry, and especially it's unfortunate, but men will do it to women waiters or waitresses. We used to call them women servers. Men will lift up their hand up very high and start clicking their fingers as if to beckon the waitress over to the table. I cannot tell you what a pet peeve that is. My Italian temper
Don't
just
raise your hand and click your fingers at Debbie.
Well, it's just so rude. I mean, who would do that would you do that to your mom or your dad or a person at your house? No, you wouldn't do that, but you would do it to a server. And so what Chelsea had experienced so many, and here's the thing, when I got into restaurant management, and that's why I asked Chelsea about the management, I used to actually go up to tables that used to totally the servers that were working with me. Servers never worked for me. They worked with me, because if I didn't have them around me, we would never make the restaurant work. And I used to go up to the table and I would say, sir or ma'am, your comments to our servers are not acceptable. We do not do that in this restaurant. That's not happening on my watch. And I can't tell you how many times when a manager would step in and protect the servers, especially like in a case like what happened to Chelsea, you can really change a person's behavior and make a person, kind of, humbled into realizing they really crossed the line, because that was not acceptable what happened to Chelsea at all. But it happens so frequently.
Sometimes it's really not even a conscious act on the part of some people. Chelsea, thank you for your call. Please do continue driving safely, and all the best of luck to you. It sounds like you got a really bright future.
Years now, so thank you.
All right. Thanks for calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie at 1-800-585-9396. We can also hear from you by email, take2, the number 2, at EWTN.com. A couple of quick comments. A gentleman named Patrick says that, yes, the poor who can't get or choose not to get welfare, then working poor, than anyone with discretionary income. I think he's talking about the different classes here. The poor who can't get or choose not to get welfare. Then you've got the working poor. Then you've got anyone with discretionary income. And, of course, Debbie, in this country, we do have the classes, I think, but for the most part, a lot of us are certainly better off. I think the classes in this country will look different than the classes in say, like a third world country, for example.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. But in our country, Jerry, the class, kind of structure, if you will, it's, not really a class system, but the class structure just naturally emerges just by nature of the jobs that we do. And I think that's what we're trying to really highlight today, is that if you are being served by somebody, I just got goosebumps, Holy Spirit goosebumps, so I know this is not of God. I know this is of God. If you are being served by somebody, take a moment and think about how you treat them, how you appreciate them, how you recognize their ability to make your better. And I think that's what we're trying to really highlight today. I think for the most part, we do a fabulous job. But like Jerry, you travel all the time, and I travel as well. We see a lot of just very disrespectful behaviors, and that's got to change. It is to make it a topic of discussion and to do what we're doing right now so that we can explore this, take a second look, take a second take, and be able to really grow from it. So I just wanted to share.
All right, our phone number, if you'd like to join us live on the air, Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, 1-800-585-9396. Next stop is Colorado. Al, welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We appreciate your phone call.
Hi,
Go ahead,
Al.
Al. You're on the air.
Morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Well, I'm doing very well. Thank you for taking my...
Thank you for waiting.
The story that I want to relate to you happened a few years ago. My wife and I, we're not wealthy by any means, but we're also, I guess you would call us middle class, and we like to go to nice places. And the newspaper said that there was not a grand opening in an upper-class neighborhood, a very wealthy superstar in this area, and we thought it would be kind of fun to go there. And so one Friday evening, we jumped in our Nissan truck and drove over there and parked our truck, and we were dressed what we thought was appropriately. And we walked into the restaurant, and it was very busy, not terribly busy, but some. And when we walked in, this gentleman walked up to us and first of all asked us if we had reservations, and we said no, we didn't, and we apologized. And he says, well, I'm sorry, but there's no room. We're all packed up, and there's no reservations being taken. We were able to see inside the restaurant, and we saw where there actually were tables available. They weren't very busy, and we asked him if we could wait, and he says, no, the restaurant is busy and we're all booked up. It made me really upset. And myself, what is this? We can afford to pay, and like I say, we're not wealthy, but God has provided for us, and we're good stewards of our finances, and we walked out shaking our heads. And when I got home, I called my son, who was a newspaper reporter, and I told him what had happened, and he says, Dad, do you know what that is? You were the victim of the velvet rope. Mm-hmm. The people that greeted you didn't feel like you were sufficiently in class to be present for the evening. And that really hurt, because we're not, like I say, we're not wealthy but it was the first time I had felt any kind of prejudice against us as a couple, and I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, Al, I've had experiences like that. Debbie probably has too. The only question that comes to my mind is, did they have any kind of particular dress code? Did they convey in a nice way to you, like, sir, we have this particular attire that we require here in this restaurant, and you said maybe you hadn't gotten dressed up specifically for that.
In fact, people were walking through past us and being taken into the restaurant in blue jeans and polo shirts and that type of thing. So no, there was no dress code. There was nothing, and we were actually dressed better than most of the people that were being taken ahead of us and led into the restaurant.
Wow.
Well, again, Al, I have to share with you, you're not alone. I have seen so many, so many instances where management and the hostess area just doesn't have the experience or the ability to navigate a certain situation and do the right thing. And I'm not saying anything against this. I'm just saying that we need more training on how to treat people. Come from respect. When I was a manager, I was big on respect. Al, if you had come into the restaurant I was managing, I would have found a table for you, and you would have been totally wined and dined. So I'm sorry you had that experience, but that does give us, some food for thought. And those of us who are in the restaurant industry, please let's take note of that people are being hurt possibly by our actions. So I know we got to go to a break. We're going to go to a break, Jerry. And so on the other side of the break, we'll come back to this discussion. This is a great topic.
Yeah, Al, thank you very much for calling and sharing that. We appreciate that. It's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Excuse me, a lot more of your calls to get to. 1-800-585-9396 is our number. Shoot us an email. Take2, the number 2, We're talking about the class system in everyday life. Tomorrow we look at Independence Day and our nation's founding, patriotism, and, of course, religious freedom. So we hope you're with us tomorrow.
What's stopping you from becoming a Catholic?
Why can't women become priests?
I don't understand why I have to earn salvation.
How is it possible that God created everything?
Why do I need to confess my sins to a priest?
Why is the Catholic Church so unwilling to the Catholic Church is too rich?
Catholics worship Mary and are committed.
As far as I'm concerned, all religions are equal.
You are called to communion with Dr. David Anders. Today, 2 p.m. on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
I have a new love and respect for the Catholic Church, and those of you who waver in your faith, don't you dare. You stick to your guns, because that's the one thing you can hold on to. When everything else disappears around you, you say your rosary, you do what you guys do, but hang on to your faith, and don't you dare fall off the path.
Stay on God's path and listen daily to EWTN Radio.
Prayer that I recommend to you is the Holy Rosary. I am carrying an assault weapon and a 50-round...
Welcome back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Thanks for staying with us today. We're having a very great discussion about the class system, or the different classes that just seem to arise by the nature of our work. And so we have a great conversation going. We've got a lot of calls holding, but we're going to go to, before we go to Elizabeth, get ready in Florida. We're going to go to you, but I just got to do a quick shout out to Father Steve Kunkel, the pastor of St. Thomas the Apostle in Phoenix, Arizona. He's listening to the show, Jerry, right now, and he really loves it. And he's a great pastor. I just want to say thank you, Father Steve, for listening to Take Two. Okay. Elizabeth in Florida, thank you so much for holding. How are you? Hi.
Hi. I got confused. It was Father Steve or me. It's me, Elizabeth in Florida. I am a wheelchair user. I have a big fancy wheelchair that tilts. I don't work anymore, but I do use a lot of public restrooms, when I'm out and about.
Sure.
And just yesterday it happened again. There's a lot of confusion about why that big stall is there, and it's often occupied by moms and kids and teenagers, and I will say, I've got to be very careful about this when I come across this. There are other people's bodies, if they're too tall or too wide, they also need to use that room, even though they can walk perfectly fine. So we need to be careful about that. But people are not realizing, until I am polite about it, that they really could have chosen one of the other 6 stalls before you got to the far one at the end. And it's a matter of being polite and educating. My best friend said to me, I never knew I wasn't supposed to use that until you told me.
Wow. Well, see, now you brought it to thousands of attention today. So thank you for that, Elizabeth. And I couldn't agree with you more. Sometimes, especially, women, I do feel bad for women. I will tell you this, because I don't think there's enough stalls in the restrooms to begin with. I mean, it just seems like there's so many women lined up, and so they, at a convenience, they'll run to the next stall that's open. And so we really do have to be aware and cognizant that there are people that really need to use the bigger bathroom facilities, and that we should wait and step back. I have done that in the airports, where I've actually turned around in line, and I've seen somebody who really needed to use the handicap stall, and I've said, hey, you go ahead of me. And I couldn't agree more. So, Elizabeth, thank you for the time to make the call and to educate all of us on the proper protocol when we are, just living our life. So many times, like I've said this before, Jerry, not all of us, but there are some people that, and we're going to do a show on this, it's called mall people. Mall, M-A-L-L. Mall
folks,
people.
you don't want to miss that one.
You don't want to miss it. It's people walking around in an unconscious state and just not thinking. And so this is why calls like Elizabeth help grow and to learn and to be better Christians. I mean, that's why I love this show, Jerry. So thank you for thinking of this show. You were the creator and mastermind behind this.
Well,
I just paid you a compliment.
Thank you. Elizabeth, was there anything else you wanted to add?
No, thank you for helping me get the word out.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for the call.
You're welcome.
And I think the bottom line here, Debbie, is, as you said, respect and I'll admit I've gone into the handicapped stall at the restroom many times, but one of the things is when you're in a hurry and you've got 5 minutes before your plane is boarding and it's the only one available, I look all around. I make sure that there isn't someone who's waiting for it or someone who is coming in who needs it. But it really gets down to I think empathy and just realizing certain people have different needs than we do. And if they are in a position where they need to utilize something like that, we definitely have to show them that respect, because that's why accommodations like that have been made for people with disabilities and so forth.
I couldn't agree more. Well said, Jerry. Can I say where Barbara's from? I love that town.
Please do.
I just love Barbara Zoo. What a great town. Hi, Barbara.
Hello.
Is it Kalamazoo?
I assume you're talking about Kalamazoo?
Yes. I just want to know how to pronounce it properly. So it's Kalamazoo?
Yes, as in there's a song, and actually somebody made a joke about it on 2 years ago. But yes, there really is a Kalamazoo.
That is so cool. What a great, great town. So, Barbara, what's your take today on this great topic that we're having and we're all learning from?
Well, one thing is my fabulous dad taught me a lot of stuff. And when I was listening to the teacher, I was a teacher back when I was younger. And the first thing we learned was the janitor and the secretary are the two most important people in the building. And it got me to think about my janitorial experience. We were always supposed to not be seen nor heard. Mm-hmm. And I remember working as a janitor for at least 6 months during college, and he had to go in early one night, and you always kept your head down and you say, "Excuse me, ma'am, may I take your trash? Excuse me, sir, may I take your trash?" and stuff like that. And this one person would not necessarily get light of day, nor, I would actually say, not pleasant to me. And what's ironic is I went to the other office next to hers, and I said, "Excuse me, sir, may I take your trash?" And I go, "Dad." It was my dad, who happened to be the head of HR of that company, and it was amazing how quickly the person next door jumped up and, "Oh, gee, is this your daughter?" and da-da-da-da, and I laughed. I smiled. I looked at my dad, and I go, "I have to go back to work." But one of the neat things about my dad is he sat down with me many occasions when I felt so inadequate, and, rich people or whatever, different classes, and he smiled too, because he knew what he had told me before: "You're just as good as anyone else." Mm-hmm. And it just made me smile. Instead of getting angry or obviously going to the HR person, to the person didn't obviously know my dad was the HR person.
Well, Barbara, you bring up, just such a huge point about respect and treating people in every job around us well. Now, that person changed because they knew, all of a sudden became aware of who your dad was. And how unfortunate is that for that person, that they had to have that happen in order for them to start, really recognizing your self-worth and dignity. Barbara, I just wanted to share I was in the service industry, and I used to experience such disrespect. I can't even begin to tell you. I could tell you guys stories like you wouldn't believe. I was 9 months pregnant when I was a manager at a hotel, and I can't tell you how disrespectful people were to me about my pregnancy and the fact that I had a big belly, and it was just disgusting. But I would always say this internal prayer, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And I would say that over, and it would help me just cope, because it's really not only is it a very humbling experience, but it's just a very traumatic experience to be on the receiving end, feeling like, I matter too. My dignity matters too. So this is a great discussion, and I really believe in my heart of hearts that after this show, we're going to see just a little kernel of a different world because of this topic today. So thank you, Barbara, for making the time and giving us your take on this subject.
The show.
Thank you, Barbara.
Did she say she loves the show?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. I couldn't hear it. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you.
I learned
Well,
so much. You have a great day.
You too,
you
Barbara.
You too.
Thankfully, you're on the show, Debbie. That's why people like it so much.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you.
Debbie in Long Island, I apologize. I'm looking at the clock right now. We've got about 2 minutes, and we completely out. So with apologies, if you would like to call back on any other program and share a take, we would love to have you. Take two with Jerry and Debbie. Debbie, I can't believe it. Week number 3, I think, of the show, right? Going to be wrapping up tomorrow.
This is fast. I mean, every hour. I mean, we're a little bit less than an hour with our listeners, but I've got to tell you, this goes so fast. And I learn something every day. Every day I have a page of notes, Jerry, of what I learned. How amazing is that?
You're really a note taker, aren't you?
I am. An
overachiever.
A list maker and a note taker.
We should listen to an archive show on that topic.
Oh, yeah, that would be cool. Very cool. And did Debbie, please, from Long Island, call back, because I love the name, and you spell it the same way I do. So there you go.
Well, let's share our takeaways, and then we'll look ahead to tomorrow. What do you take away from today's show?
I take away that I even need to step it up even more, to acknowledge everyone around me that makes my life better and more convenient, and being able to enjoy the luxuries. And so you're probably going to see me just go crazy with the thank yous and the please and all the proper terms to value the people around me. That's my takeaway. What's yours, Jerry?
Well, before I share that, I will say this, folks. I have traveled with Debbie a lot, and I can tell, Debbie, that you have the experience that you do and that you talked about in the service industry and so forth, because, dear listeners, I have never seen anybody and polite and charitable than Debbie and her husband Marty. When we're in restaurants, first thing Debbie will do is ask a waiter or a waitress, "What's your name?" and address them on a first name basis, and really actually, make them feel a part almost of our dining experience. I've experienced that from you, Debbie. So, my takeaway is probably the same thing. It has to start with me. I need to be more conscious of the fact that there is a class system. We can't really get away from that, I guess. But God is the giver of all gifts, and He has chosen to give to whomever He has what He has. And we just need to, recognize the self-worth and dignity of every. Debbie, I'm really looking forward to tomorrow's show as we head into Independence Day on Saturday.
Independence Day, ultimate freedom. You want to tune in for this show, so please join us. And don't forget to like the EWTN Radio Network Facebook page. We want to get that up to several thousand. Will you help us? Your friends. God bless you. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. We'll see you tomorrow.